in relationships. There is a lot of emotional manipulation that takes place in romantic relationships. And it's not always malicious. For example, women try to modify men's behavior to make them more housebroken. That is just normal. However, there are certain instances of manipulation where the person's intention is malicious, and she is motivated by a need to control or dominate over the other person. Positive reinforcement is perhaps the most used covert manipulation technique in romantic relationships. Your partner can get you to do what he wants by praising you, flattering you, giving you attention, offering your gifts, and acting affectionately. Even the seemingly nice things in relationships can turn out to be covert manipulation tools and props. For instance, your girlfriend could use intense sex as a weapon to reinforce a certain kind of behavior in you. Similarly, men can use charm, appreciation, or gifts to reinforce certain behaviors in the women they are dating. Some sophisticated manipulators use what psychologists call intermittent positive reinforcement to gain control over their partners. The way it works is that the perpetrator will shower the victim with intense positive reinforcement for a certain period of time, then switch to just giving her normal levels of attention and appreciation. After a random interval of time, he will again go back to the intense positive reinforcement. When the victim gets used to the special treatment, it's taken away. And when she gets used to normal treatment, the special treatment is brought back, and it all seems arbitrary. Now, the victim will get to a place where she becomes sort of addicted to the special treatment. But she has no idea how to get it. So she starts doing whatever the perpetrator wants in the hope that one of the things she does will bring back the intense positive reinforcement. In other words, she effectively becomes subservient to the perpetrator. Negative reinforcement techniques are also used in relationships to manipulate others covertly. For example, partners can withhold sex as a way of compelling the other person to modify their behavior in a specific way. People also use techniques such as the silent treatment and withholding of love and affection. Some malicious people can create a false sense of intimacy by pretending to open up to you. They could share personal stories and talk about their hopes and fears. When they do this, they create the impression that they trust you. But their intention may be to get you to feel a sense of obligation towards them. Manipulators also use well-calculated insinuations to get you to react in a certain way at the moment to modify your behavior in the long run. Such insinuations can be made through words or even actions. In colloquial terms, we call this dropping a hint. People in relationships are always trying to figure out what the other person wants out of that relationship. So a manipulative person can drop hints to get you to do what they want without ever having to take responsibility for the actions that you take, because they can always argue that you misinterpreted what they meant. However, malicious insinuations can be very hurtful, and they can chip away at your self-esteem. Your partner can insinuations to suggest you are gaining weight, you aren't making enough money, or even to suggest that your cooking skills aren't any good. People use insinuations to get away with saying without saying any number of hurtful things that could affect your self-esteem. Emotional manipulations in friendships. Covert emotional manipulation is quite common in friendships and casual relationships. Friendships tend to progress slower than romantic relationships. But that just means that it can take a lot more time for you to figure out if your friends are manipulative. Manipulation in friendships can be confusing because even well-meaning friends can come across as malicious. That's because there is a certain social rivalry that exists between even the closest of friends, which explains the concept of frenemies. Manipulative friends tend to be passive-aggressive. This is where they manipulate you into doing what they want by involving mutual friends rather than by coming to you directly. Passive aggression works as a manipulation technique because it denies you a chance of directly addressing whatever issue your friend is raising. And so, in a manner of speaking, you lose by default. For example, if a friend wants you to do her a favor, instead of coming out and asking you, she goes to a mutual friend and suggests that she asks you on her behalf. Now, when the mutual friend approaches you, It becomes very difficult for you to turn down the request because there is added social pressure. When you say no, your whole social circle now perceives you as selfish. Passive aggression can also involve the use of silent treatment to get you to comply with a request. Imagine a situation where one of your friends talks to everyone else but you. It's going to be incredibly awkward for you. And everyone will start prying, wondering what the issue is between the two of you, and taking sides on the matter. Friends can also covertly manipulate you by using subtle insults. They can give you backhanded compliments that have hidden meanings. When you take the time to think about what they meant by the compliment, you will realize that it's an insult in disguise. And that will bruise your self-esteem and possibly modify your behavior. Some friends can manipulate you by going on a power trip and trying to control your social interactions. For example, there are those friends who are going to insist that every time you hang out, it should be in their apartment or at a social venue of their choosing. Such friends often have the intention of dominating your friendship, so they are keen to always have the home ground advantage over you. They'll try to push you out of your comfort zone, just so that you can reveal your weaknesses and you can then become more emotionally reliant on them. Manipulative friends tend to excessively capitalize on your friendship, and to a disproportionate degree. They will ask you for lots of favors with no regard for your time or your effort. They are the kinds of friends who will leverage your friendship every time they need something, but then make excuses when it's their turn to reciprocate. Emotional manipulation at work. There are many reasons why your colleague may want to manipulate you. It could be you are on the same career path, and so he wants to make you look bad. It could be that he is lazy, and he wants to stick you with his responsibilities. It could also be that he is a sadist, and he just wants to see you suffer. One way people at work exert their dominance over others is by stressing them out and then, almost immediately, relieving the stress. Say, for example, you make a minor error on a report, and your boss calls you into his office. He makes a big fuss and threatens to fire you. But then towards the end, he switches gears and reassures you that your job is secure as long as you do what he wants. That kind of manipulation works on people because it makes them afraid and gives them a sense of obligation at the same time. Some colleagues can manipulate you by doing you small favors, and then reminding you of those favors every time they want something from you. For instance, if you made an error at work and a colleague covered for you, he may hold it over your head for months or even years to come. And he is going to guilt you into feeling indebted to him. Colleagues can also manipulate you by leaving you out of the loop when they are passing across important information. The intention here is to get you to mess up so that they can have a better standing with the boss or with other colleagues. When you discover that someone is leaving you out of the loop at work and you confront them, they could feign innocence and pretend that it was a genuine mistake on their part. Or they could find a way to turn it around and blame you. People with dark personality traits tend to be hyper-competitive at work, and they won't hesitate to use underhanded means to pull one over you. Most colleagues turn out to be good friends, but you should be careful with colleagues that are overly eager to befriend you. It could be that they want to learn more about you so that they can figure out your strengths and weaknesses and find ways to use them against you. Narcissists, Machiavellians, and psychopaths are very good at scheming at work, so don't let them catch you off guard. Chapter